Chapter 23. Sarabi. Sarabi stood within the shadow of the ancient baobab tree, away from the rest of the lionesses and other animals that grazed and availed themselves of a cool drink at the waterhole. She liked to come here from time to time. There was something comforting about observing the day-to-day life of the pride from this vantage point. Unfortunately, the tranquil scene did little to bring her comfort today. Sarabi feared that if Scar was unsuccessful in retrieving Nala, her pride would never know peace or comfort again. They had all tried to keep up a brave front in the face of the tragedy playing out within their pride in real time. There had been a steady stream of lionesses coming to her all day, seeking guidance about what they should do, hinting at defying Scar's edict, and putting together a search for Nala. With every hour that passed without word from Scar, Sarabi was tempted to do that very thing, but she was keenly aware of the consequences that could result from defying the leader of their pride. If she were to go against Scar's orders, it would lead to chaos. She had heard of such things happening before. The next time Scar issued a directive the lionesses disagreed with, they would push for Sarabi to defy it again. Or worse, they would start to openly rebel against Scar on their own, without waiting to get her guidance on the matter. What was to stop them from refusing to obey her commands when they disagreed with her? Sarabi could not risk it. There must be order and a heresy for a pride to remain successful. One crack in the chain of command and the entire pride would crumble. She would wait this out for as long as she could, though she knew it would not be easy. Putting her trust in her brother-in-law at a time like this was, by far, one of the most difficult things Sarabi could imagine doing. Scar was not a leader, no matter what the line of succession had decreed. It took more than just the blood running through one's veins to be a leader. Please let him be better at tracking down cubs than he is at running this pride. Sarabi made her way to the waterhole, but kept to the western edge of it, some distance away from where several of the lionesses had clustered together with their cubs. She could not handle their questioning her right now, but it would seem she would not be granted the peace she so desperately thought. The moment she lowered her head to lap at the water, Sarabi noticed Keto walking with purpose. Her eyes set on her. She loved her sister, but she did not want to speak to her right now. Keto did not bother with a greeting. She simply said, "They should be back by now." Sarabi could not argue with her. She had thought the same. If what Abena had told them was true, then Nala should not have got very far after bringing the younger cub back to Pride Rock. It should not be taking Scar this long to retrieve her, unless he had gotten turned around, or if Nala had taken a different route. Sarabi told this to Keto, but it didn't satisfy her sister. "It is yet another reason why we should spread out in teams to look for her," Keto argued. "Nala is smart. I'm sure she considered that we would set out to search for her. It only makes sense that she wouldn't take the same route. It increases her chances of not being found." Sarabi shut her eyes tight. Keto was not saying anything she had not already thought herself. A constant stream of various scenarios continued to run through her mind. Things that could have happened to Nala already. Things that could be happening to her at this very moment. None of it was good. "I just do not understand. Why would Scar insist on going after Nala alone when we all could be out looking for her?" Keto asked. "We are all better hunters than he is." "It is not our job to question our leader's actions," Sarabi said. "Maybe it is time someone starts questioning him," Keto said, "because something is not right about this." "We cannot," Sarabi said. "The last thing this pride needs right now is an insurrection." She lowered her voice. "We may not like it, but Scar is the leader of our pride. If it is his wish to retrieve Nala on his own, without the help of anyone but his majordomo, Then that is how it must be. She could tell Keto wanted to argue further, but held back out of respect for Sarabi's position within their pride. It was precisely why Sarabi refused to question or openly defy Scar. She had to set an example. Being insubordinate would encourage the other lionesses to behave the same way, which would lead to chaos. It was her job to remain calm. Her level-headedness was the only thing keeping this pride together. Yet, as a leader, Sarabi could tell that things could not go on this way. The lionesses were becoming too agitated. Waiting here without word from Scar, she had to do something. Come, Sarabi told Keto. It is time I make a decision. Finally, her sister said. Sarabi shot her a scathing look. I'm sorry, Keto quickly added. She and Keto made their way over to where the others were all sitting with their cups. Viola had not allowed Abena or Ola to move more than a few meters from her since the younger cubs' return. To think of how much they had all secretly derided Serafina over her overprotectiveness of Nala these past 6 months, Viola had quickly begun to mirror her behavior. It occurred to Sarabi that she had not seen Serafina in quite some time. She scanned those gathered here, but did not see her among the lionesses. Goodness, she hoped she had not taken off on her own. Where is Scar? Sefu asked the moment Sarabi reached them. He should be back with Nala by now. I know we are all very concerned, Sarabi said. I am too, of course, but we all heard what Scar said. But... Sarabi put up a paw, silencing them. However, she continued, sitting by and doing nothing while Nala continues to get further and further away is more than any of us can bear. Therefore, I have come to a decision. A hum of expectation began to rumble through the lionesses. The new moon arrives in 2 days' time, Sarabi said. If Scar is not back with Nala by then, I will dispatch teams to go in search of both of them. We have to wait 2 days? Thandi asked. Anything can happen in that time. It is an act of outright defiance to go at all, Sarabi reminded her. If Scar questions my motives, I will tell him that I fear there was an accident. Sarabi released an uneasy breath. I would hope that Zazu would come back with word if Scar did indeed have an accident before he found Nala. But anything can happen out there in the jungle. Especially when our so-called leader is completely unqualified to do the job. Thandi, Sarabi said in a warning tone. She is right, and you know it, Sefu said. We never should have entrusted Nala's safety to Scar. Did you have a choice? Sarabi asked. Did any of us? I do not have to remind any of you that there are laws in this kingdom. If you do not wish to abide by them, then you do not want to be part of this pride. There was a collective gasp. Her words were harsh, but necessary. She had to maintain order among them. Have I made myself clear? Sarabi asked. Their displeasure was tangible, but they all nodded their agreement. The lionesses dispersed, returning to their cubs. Thandi and Keto walked over to the outcroppings so they could lie in the sun and nap. Oli, ever the one to want to ease tension around Pride Rock, asked some of the cubs to join her in a game of hide-and-seek, but there was one lioness missing. Sarabi looked around until her eyes finally landed on Serafina. She sat clear across the waterhole, on the side where the zebras and gazelles usually gathered. She sat with her back to the water, staring out towards the Shadowlands. Sarabi closed her eyes against the deep hurt that slashed through her. She knew what it was like to stare out into the distance, wondering if your cub was out there somewhere, to wonder if they were safe, if they would ever return to you. Sarabi knew what it was like to grab hold of every single crumb of hope one could find and cling to it like nothing else mattered in life, because nothing else did. She ached to go to her, but for the first time in her life, Sarabi wasn't sure if her friend would welcome her. Her pain deepened. This rift between herself and Serafina was something she could never have predicted. They had been inseparable their entire lives, but at this very moment, they seemed very far apart. She thought back to the argument and Seraphina's horrible, hurtful words. Sarabi waited for the anger to reappear, but it never emerged. Instead, she felt understanding. Now that the shocking ache had worn off, she was able to put herself in Seraphina's paw prints, because she had walked in them herself. She understood why her friend had said the things she'd said. She had been so overprotective of Nala because she didn't want to go through the heartache of losing a cub, the way Sarabi had. Who would? Yet, here Seraphina was, going through the one thing she had done her best to avoid all these months. Sarabi took a tentative step forwards, then another. She continued, moving slowly, giving herself time to think through what she wanted to say. But when she arrived at Seraphina's side, she could not think of a single word that would ease her friend's pain. Everything seemed inadequate. Sarabi quietly settled alongside Seraphina. She stared straight ahead, looking in the same direction her friend did. Then she reached over and tentatively set her paw upon Seraphina's. She felt the other lioness stiffen and was sure she would jerk her paw away, but then Seraphina settled her chin against Sarabi's neck and began to weep. Sarabi held herself up as strong and firm as possible, bearing Seraphina's weight. Words were never spoken, because words were unnecessary.